right, welcome to the program. Let's get started talking about the 5 P's of speaking. All right, so let's talk about the 5 P's. These are the 5 P's of speaking. I'm probably going to go over them more as I go over the worksheet, but I kind of want to give you a little bit of context for them. The reason that you need to go through these is because it's a plan. It's clarity on what you're doing. A lot of people, when they tell me that they want to speak, I go, great, what do you speak about? And they say, I don't know, I just want to speak. And that's not going to get you anywhere. No one's going to buy a ticket to see that show unless they want to watch a train wreck. And no one's going to hire you to speak at their event. So it's really important to be able to clearly articulate what it is that you speak about, what problem you solve for your audience, and what you deliver to solve that problem. And so the 5 P's go over those things. And in addition to that, things like, who you should speak to when you're reaching out, what types of events are best for you to speak at, and the process that people go through when they don't, from not knowing about you at all to seeing you speak or do a podcast or be at your event, whatever the thing is, not knowing about you, through to giving you their email, through to getting emails from you, being educated and building trust with you, to booking a call if that's how you do it, or to buying your product, or to booking a call and then buying a product. It's really about figuring out exactly what it is you do, being really clear, getting those ducks in a row. And once you've gone through this process, you'll be a lot more confident of the types of things that you speak about, the types of audiences that you want to speak to, and the problems that you can solve. So I'm really excited. Let's get into it. Okay, here we've got the 5 P's, and I'm going to go over each of them and talk about how they work and how they help you. And then the job is for you to go through and fill them all out. And as I said earlier, why you want to do that is so that you can get complete and total clarity on what it is that you talk about, what you help people with, who you should be getting in front of, who you need to pitch to actually speak at their event, and other things that we will cover coming up. So here we go. The first of the 5 P's is the prospect. And that's the person that you want to be in front of. Now, if you own a business, which you may do because you're in here doing this, if you own a business, you probably, hopefully, have a pretty good idea of the type of prospect that will buy your stuff, that you want to work with, kind of your dream client, right? Who are these prospects? And so in that first box, we're going to figure out what type of people do you want to speak to, your ideal audience. What's their demographic? What business do they run if they run businesses? Or maybe if they don't, what type of other stuff are they into? What magazines do they read? Are they entrepreneurs or not? Kind of all sorts of things. You really want to drill down into what type of person they are. Well, actually, that next box is similar. What types of conferences do they go to? So what are some other things then if you've got an event, or if you do workshops or whatever, what are some other types of events and conferences that they go to? If they're really into obviously like ClickFunnels, and they're into marketing and they're building products, ClickFunnels would go in this box. If they have online stores, if they're retail owners, then they may go to things like Shopify events or traffic conversion, or those other types of things. If they are interested in dog training, what types of events do they go to? So write that in that box. And then the last thing here is, what do they want to learn? What goals do they have? What's their biggest problems? Just write down what they are. Why do they go to these conferences, right? Like, what are they turning up there for? Do they want to meet other people that are, in similar situations to them, or have the same backgrounds as them? Are they interested in hiring people? Are they interested in growing their business? Are they interested in growing plants? I don't know. Obviously, if they're going to a dog training conference, then they probably have a dog that they train, or maybe you're interested in talking to people who train dogs. Maybe you're selling stuff to dog trainers. So be really clear on who they are, what goals they have, and what type of conferences they want to go. So this next page is the person page, all right? It's pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Who should you contact? Most of the time, it's going to be the event planners. If it's associations, it's going to be a manager or an event coordinator. Who's in charge of conferences? Usually event planners, or there may be someone in charge of speaking specifically. If it's corporate, it will be probably HR maybe, or someone in charge of booking, like some sort of program coordinator. There's a few different roles, and so there's not really one that you can always rely on. So what you've got to do usually is if you do your detective work, and you search through, I usually Google the conference. Sometimes I check out the Facebook. Sometimes I will Google the conference plus organizer or program director or coordinator or something like that, and then find the person. It may not have their email, but it may have their LinkedIn. So all of that kind of detective work is done to figure out just who is in charge of this booking speakers. And sometimes it takes time. This is probably the part that takes the most time. So just write down here, depending on if you're speaking at corporate type events or workshops, if you're doing workshops for chambers of commerce or for small business associations or for other types of associations, then just write down the type of person that you're likely to need to speak to. Probably just going to be a list of what I just said. All right. So the next thing is for you to actually go and do some of that detective work. So Google 10 events that you'd like to speak at, and do that detective work to get the email of the person who's in charge of booking speakers. So if you take the 10 events that you would like to speak at, you maybe have them already from the previous page. If you don't, just find 10 events that you think would be great to speak at. If you're just starting out, don't make them South by Southwest or something if you don't have any speaking experience. But you never know. Who am I to say that, you can't do anything? We'll never tell you that. So I like to play the game of being realistic versus, going crazy and dreaming big. So do whatever you want here. But 10 events that you'd like to speak at, do that detective work. This is literally where a lot of people stop, because they'll just find info@whatevertheconferences.com and email, hi, I'd like to speak, how do I speak? And I think a lot of times that's ineffective because they get so many people doing that. But if you can find the person whose email it is, who's actually in charge of it, and their first name, their last name, you've looked at them on LinkedIn, you can say, hey, person, I've reached out to you on LinkedIn, I do this, this, and this, and, you can take it from there. And there's templates I've got and things like that that you can use. So this next section, number 3 of the 5 Ps, is the problem. What problem do you solve? I cannot stress enough how you need to be solving a problem in your business. If I'm preaching to the choir, I apologize. You may already be on board with this whole concept, but you have to solve a problem. Now, if you already got a business or a book or et cetera, you probably have a problem that you already solve, right? You hopefully have one. That's why you've got a business. If you don't have a problem that you solve yet, then this is one of the key ducks to get in a row here with the 5 Ps, because if you're not solving a problem for people will not want to buy anything from you. So you've got to figure out what they want and not what you want to create. It's taking their problem and finding a solution to it and then offering them that solution, and then they give you money for that solution and everybody is happy. So figure out what problem you can solve, what pain can you stop or ease for people, because this is one of those ducks. If what you're talking about at the event is if that's about one thing, and then what you're selling is about a totally different thing, you haven't built up the correct trust or the right trust for the right product. You haven't built up the correct authority that you need to sell your thing, so it won't work. So you've got to have those things lined up. So figure out, we've figured out who you're selling to, and so now we're just going to go back to that original or the first P, which was prospect, and we wrote down all the problems that they have. So write down, that problem again, but how you solve, or I guess if they had a bunch of different problems, then pick one of those if you haven't already and just write like how you solve it. And that's what this box is for here, the problem box. So the next part of this worksheet is the process. This is important. Listen, this is the 5 Ps. Every P is important. So let me talk a little bit about the process. This is a lot of what I focus on. It's so important because it's going to take people from not knowing who you are to buying something from you. So what's the process that they're going to go through in order to do that? What's their customer journey, right? And so this is important not just for speakers. This is kind of a whole business concept. But here's where you're going to outline the process. It can be brief. That's okay. In this case, how we'll get people into our funnel is by, speaking gigs, podcast interviews. There's probably a million things, but for the purposes of this, they listen to the podcast or they watch the talk, right? That's how they get started knowing about you. And then you're going to make them an offer. And the offer is so that you can continue talking to them. Because if you don't, then they just go home, they met you, great, they're never going to think about you again, probably. I'm sorry, but that's true. So if you give them something, then you will get their email address, and then you can keep on amazing them and wowing them with your awesome content. So you've got to get their email. So what are you going to give them in return for their email? That's the thing that you write down there. Now, you can give it away online or at speaking gigs, it's the same. At a speaking gig, you would just put it on the end of your slides, the last slide, saying, listen, if you want to download whatever it is, then just go to this website and download it. On mine, I lead them to a Facebook chat, which automatically sends them either my slides or like a download about what I was talking about. The next bit is what will they need to learn in order to trust you? So you're going to have to send them some emails. So what are those emails going to be like? What will they need to know in order to, once they've given you their email address, you need to get them from where they are there to trusting you and wanting to either book a call with you or buy your product. So whatever content they're going to need to see, that's the kind of content. Things like, videos where you're talking about the thing, solving the problem, right? Or videos where maybe for some trust and authority, you can show a video of you speaking at another event. Or for trust and authority, you can send them a testimonial from people who've worked with you. Or for trust and authority, you can send them your story, how you got started doing this thing, or talk about your vision for your movement in solving this problem that you solve. So the next part is how you'll get them to book a call or take action. So that can be via an email, it can be via chat. You can have them take an action and reach out and book that call with you. I use Calendly to do that, to book calls. And that's always my go-to when I'm selling a product that is $1,000 or over. I will have people book a call with me and I will sell it on the call or after the call. How they'll pay, so you've got to have your payment stuff set up. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir on this one. If you don't have payment stuff set up, then you don't have a business. There's so many different options for this. And how will your solution be delivered? So I actually use Podia.com, Podia, to deliver my solutions and to take payments. And you can actually get, I think, a longer trial or something at beckpower.me/Podia. Podia? I call it Podia, whatever. And so those are the questions that you need to answer right here. It's important to make sure that you know each step of what your customer's going through. And this is the box to do that. I will see you on the other side. All right. Did you find that useful? I hope that was interesting and useful, and you can fill out those worksheets. If you haven't finished, no worries. And I hope that you really get value out of them and clarity out of them, because that's the point, right? Is to get really clear on what it is that you're speaking about and the problems that you solve and those other things that we talked about. If you want feedback on them, if you need help, if you've got questions, please at any time reach out to me. You can find me at beck@beckpower.me, that's my email, or you can use m.me/thebeckpower, that's my Facebook Messenger. and that's where you can find me. So again, really hope that you got a lot of value out of that, and feel free to contact me anytime on those two channels, beck@beckpower.me and m.me/thebeckpower, and I will see you on the other side.